Hey guys, Zach here, and I just wanted to take a second to talk about tennis elbow for musicians. And I'm going to include gamers in this too, because my wife and I really enjoy video games, and so there's could apply for both. But specifically, I want to talk about what helped me get over it, get through it, because it took a long time. So in August 2018, I started noticing some discomfort that went quickly into just pain all the way down my arm, all the way into my hands. Wasn't much numbness, but decent, just enough. And so it was pretty painful. And so I just basically went into, I stopped the streaming I was doing in September when I realized how bad it was. I stopped all non-essential music instruments I was playing. I was writing the courses at the time. I didn't stop doing that. It probably would have been wiser if I had from a taking care of it perspective, but it worked out fine. But I just tried to baby it as much as I could while getting done what I needed to get done. And so 14 months later, I'm done with physical therapy on it. I'm done with all of the treatment stuff. It's like 98% basically back to normal, to the point where I'm comfortable saying, okay, this is good to go. And I'm not saying it couldn't reoccur in the future, but I'm saying right now I feel good. I really do. And I wanted to share what helped me get through it, because there was some stuff I did that if I had known up front, it probably would have sped up this process. So the first thing, if you get tennis elbow, just understand that at its core, it is an overuse injury. And I was totally, I think technique-wise, the only thing that I look back on and I was like, okay, my technique was like genuinely really bad. My mouse ergonomics were not great at the time. But the rest of it wasn't so much, I think, bad technique as it was I was overusing it. So I was playing piano an hour and a half a day, then I would play guitar 2 hours a day, then we'd play video games in the evening. I was writing a lot. I was songwriting a lot. I was basically never giving it a chance to breathe. And the reality is that played a huge part in why it happened. I mean, at its core, I do think there's a point where if you can have the best technique in the world, and if you still are not paying attention to your body, there was some mild discomfort before it really kicked in, that I just at the time didn't realize what was going on, and so I missed the signs until it really hit bad. So if you start noticing like pain in your arm, especially if it persists after one day, the first key, and this is from RICE, which is rest, ice, compression, elevate. Rest. You can head off a lot of this. If I had rested more early as I went along and I realized what was possible if I didn't, it would have been much, much less of a big deal. Icing. I started icing. I maybe did a little bit early on, but I really didn't stick with it, and I didn't really understand. I thought maybe heat was better, so I was doing more heat. And honestly, I've discovered when I did some more research that ice is significantly better. And then after about 4 months in, I just started icing religiously. Like I was icing, I'd bring it to work. I would bring it, if I was icing probably 3 to 5 times a day, for about 20 minutes a piece. That made a massive, massive difference. And I had to do it for a while. Like I probably did it for 6-8 months, maybe even longer. I think I probably stopped icing consistently a couple months near the end of it. So after about a year, so that's about right, I think, timeline-wise. Ice makes a massive difference. So what I really recommend though is ice packs, not don't like get a bag of ice, because you'll kind of burn the skin, but get ice packs that you can freeze, that are kind of the gel or whatever, and then you just lay them on the affected spot. For me, what I also found was that the tennis elbow, the actual root cause, the pain spots would be here and in the elbow. But what I've realized especially from physical therapy that I started doing near the end of this process, is that right here was actually the trigger. So when I would stretch up here near the end, and I discovering this as part of the physical therapy, I guess it's technically occupational therapy is what it is, but this relieved a ton of pressure and made it go back basically to normal. The third thing, compression. So I tried different braces and things, and they're just okay. And sometimes they caused more pain in like the wrist, for example, than other places. It really wasn't that great. What helped the most was compression sleeves. So if you've seen these, they're just basically the sleeves that attach like about here, and they go all the way down, and they are amazing if you have tennis elbow. Like I went from being like, I strum a guitar and my elbow would be, hurting a lot right here, to after about 6-7 months, like if I didn't wear a compression sleeve, I would feel it, but it really wasn't bad at all when I would wear a sleeve. And what's happening is it stimulates blood flow, which stimulates healing, and it's also protecting the muscle from, the tendon from moving around so much, which is part of why it doesn't heal as well. And so it allowed me to continue leading worship and protect it at the same time. So I literally wore compression sleeves. I'd give it breaks, but I'd be wearing them, 4 or 5 hours at a time, give it a break for an hour or two, do it again. Highly recommend it. The only thing in rice that did not help me at all was elevating it. Did not help at all. I did not notice any difference whatsoever with that. I got tips early on from a friend of mine. You know who you are. Thank you very much for physical therapy. And the stretches helped. However, I'm pretty confident now, after actually physically going in, that I wasn't doing them right. The first time I was going too quickly. So what I learned from stretching was that you want to be relaxed as possible, and you want to hold it for like 30 seconds. So one of the stretches that really helped was crossing over with my dominant hand. I'm a right-handed. So you cross over, you grab with the other hand, and you pull this way. And it's going to be hard to see. But I'm basically pulling it back, and I feel it when I pull that. I feel it here and on the elbow. And so this was really good. This was a stretch that really helped. It still helps now when it's tight. And then another stretch. You just hold that for like 30 seconds. And then another stretch which really helped. You grab a towel, and with your non-dominant hand, you pull it back, and it pulls it this way. And if you pull on it like that, for me, this was a trouble spot that I didn't know about. And you pull it back, and it really loosened. It just helped everything kind of settle back into place. In occupational therapy, they did a thermal ultrasound, which I'd say helped enough where I would say it was worth doing. I think I did 8 visits I started after 12 months of it. I'm not planning on doing surgery at the time of this video unless it were to like massively flare up and I had exhausted all other options. But I feel great. My elbow feels great. So the key thing though that I would do differently now is I would have started, if I had known, I would have started icing compression way earlier. I would have rested more before, like, I just didn't realize where my limits were, honestly. And I would have gotten actually physically into some sort of occupational therapy like much sooner. I think it would have been helpful. So if you have tennis elbow, this is something that you can expect. You really need to be aggressive at taking care of it. Don't just let it sit, because after 6 months, and especially after a year, it is much, much harder for it to heal, because your body just kind of gives up on it to a certain extent. But if you're using compression and ice, it can really, really, really help prevent it from becoming a long-term issue. Right now, I feel good. I'm not guaranteeing that I won't have a flare-up in the future, but as of this video, I'm feeling confident enough to say this is what helped me, and I hope it helps you too. So if you like this video, like, share, subscribe. I'm hoping it's a blessing to you and helps you if you have to navigate this yourself. And hopefully I won't have to again in the future, but you never know. So blessings to you, and I'll see you next time.